Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, this is New Year's Eve, and the excitement is building, waiting for New Year's night, when people will stay awake until midnight to celebrate 2024 coming in. Some people call it 2024, others call it 2024. Now, the atmosphere today is one of great excitement, and I can see that all of the shops are open and everyone's running around trying to buy everything that they think they need to celebrate the new year. And one of the most important things for many people is to buy alcohol. I don't think many people celebrate New Year without alcohol, but it's something which is a very old tradition in our country. Now, what New Year looks like, what the celebrations look like, will largely depend on where you are. Historically, Scotland had the best New Year parties. And in the 1970s and the 80s, all of the TV channels around the world would be transmitting Scottish programs live from Glasgow or Edinburgh. Because of the changing political landscape, Scotland now wants to be independent. They no longer do that. In fact, the New Year parties in Scotland are still very big, but at the ringing of the bells, or the chiming of the bells, as we say, Scotland will have its own version. They will go to Edinburgh Castle or Stirling Castle, and there'll be images of people playing Scottish traditional instruments. In England, they'll go to Big Ben, and the camera will be watching the clock approaching midnight to have a big countdown. So things are changing a lot. In the past, there was a lot of unity. Everyone looked towards Big Ben and their Houses of Parliament. But now it's much more local. I noticed on English TV, they're having a big musical concert featuring Rick Astley, which is no surprise. He was a pop star when I was growing up. So anyone over the age of 50 might be very pleased to see him. Perhaps that's a reflection on the aging population of the UK. Let me tell you about a few of the traditions. Well, when I was a little boy, there was a big tradition here called first footing. And that meant that the first person to enter your house after the bells had rang had to be having dark hair and dark eyes. If you visited your neighbor or a family member with blonde hair or blue eyes, you were told, "Sorry, but I've not had my first foot yet." In those days, people, they used to make reference, rather annoyingly, that they haven't had their first foot. It meant that they haven't had any visitors in the new year. And people were called, "Come, be my first foot, so that I can leave the house." This was a northern tradition, and it's still celebrated in Scotland and northern England. It's not very politically correct these days, so perhaps we can understand why it's dying. Where did it come from? Well, it was a form of racism, but maybe not what you think. It was a tradition which went all the way back to the time of the Vikings. Because there was a time when, as far as I know, Vikings were invading the UK. And to make sure they weren't welcome, at New Year time especially, it was better to welcome in people with dark hair and dark eyes, because they, of course, wouldn't have been Vikings. Vikings would have had blonde hair and blue eyes. It was a bit of a strange tradition to keep alive, though, because I don't know any Scottish people who have dark hair and dark eyes. Most Scottish people look quite fair, quite blonde. So I don't know where that tradition came from exactly, but it was certainly associated with the Vikings. And how they kept it alive all those years, I don't know. But even at this time of year, you'll still find that this first footing tradition exists, especially amongst the older people. What other traditions exist in the UK? Well, another one which exists is the cleaning of the house. There was an idea that the house had to be cleaned, and the whole house had to be cleaned, ready for the new year coming in. And as the bells were ringing, people would open their doors and windows to let the old year out and the new year come in. Now, I don't really think that many people do that anymore. In fact, I think many people, to conserve the energy, will be very happy just sitting alone and doing nothing. British people, we no longer move in communities. The days of big families and big social circles has completely disappeared. And that means that many of us will be alone. Being alone and drinking is not much fun. But in British culture, drinking alone is not seen as a bad thing. In fact, many people do it. It's very difficult to explain why we do it, but it's all because of our social structures. And of course, there's other people who don't drink at all, and they would rather the evening just passed, because it can be very sad for many people. They remember friends and family who are no longer there. The eating of cakes and drinking of whiskey, again, is because of Scotland. There's a particular song that everyone sings at New Year, which is called Auld Lang Syne. If you watch any Australian movie or American movie about New Year, you'll see them all joining hands, and as the bells finish, they begin to sing this song, Auld Lang Syne. Auld Lang Syne is Scottish, and it means old, long friendship. Nobody really understands why this tradition has stayed alive. Perhaps it's because of the Scottish people who travelled all over the world, or perhaps it's because people knew that Scottish people had a better party, or maybe it's because of the words about friendship. But this song will be sang everywhere after the bells ring. It's a sign of something Scottish, and so is the eating of shortbreads, which is a traditional kind of cookie which Scottish people historically made. Now, with immigration and with the changing face of Britain, Scotland is no longer the focal point for New Year's celebrations. Younger people like to be out and about, so they've organised street parties. In the past, all over the UK, people would call each other and visit each other to say Happy New Year. I don't think many people do that anymore either. Probably these days on social media, there'll simply be many texts. In the English-speaking world, I've been invited to a few Zoom parties, but well, they don't look like much fun compared to face-to-face parties, but it again reflects the changing face of Scotland. Other traditions which people hold, well, those who come from Scottish families really love to wear Scottish outfits. English people, on the other hand, well, it depends who they are. Some like to be at the pub, some like to be with family, but I think for most people, there will be a sense of, well, some kind of sadness, I think, or melancholy, because the year has been difficult, and we always look back rather than forward. Looking back to the things that have happened and the people who are not there, rather than looking forward to the choices and chances of a brand new year. So, depending on who you are, there's no set idea about what New Year might look like. But one thing is for sure, there'll be parties on TV, there'll be street parties, but fewer and fewer people will be getting together in homes. Zoom parties seem to be the new thing, but for English people, well, it shows again that we're losing our traditions, and to keep up with the stereotype, we're not really very social at this time of year. First footing has almost disappeared. The same with the cleaning of the house tradition. Right now I'm in a coffee shop, and I'm very aware that a number of people here are sitting alone. Probably they were out, maybe buying some things to welcome the family tomorrow. But as for tonight, well, I would guess that for many of them, they'll be alone. Personally speaking, I don't like New Year. I find it to be a very sad ending to a very sad time. Christmas was billed to be something fantastic, and it is what we make it. Good food and exchanging gifts, but I don't think we ever reach that climax which is promised by the media. It's the same with New Year. There's some kind of sense of remorse and sadness, but people don't talk about that. They just kind of look sad. Well, whatever way you're celebrating New Year tonight, I hope that you do it very, very well. And it's time for me to give you my New Year greeting. So I wish you all health, happiness, safety, and peace at this time of year, wherever you are. And I really hope to be seeing some of you in 2024. It's only tomorrow, so we don't have long to wait. See you all. Take care. Bye.